What's up everyone, I'm Eldridge and this is part 2 of decloaking the patch for 0.4.1. Seeing how the patch situation is going this time and seeing how it went in the past, this is pretty much how I'm going to handle this in the future. I'm just going to make multiple videos on the same patch, updating as new things come up. So today on the forum thread that I made on the European forums about decloaking the patch, Wargaming EU staff member Evan has come out and said that the Rudder shift time changes are actually not what they seem. Now while I definitely appreciate him coming out and saying this, I do think that what he said could be misinterpreted by people, especially because of how I presented it in the video and in the thread. Now the way he presented it could maybe make people think that these changes just have been cancelled and are not going to take place. That however is not actually the case. What he's saying is that these changes just fix the UI. The rudder shift times in-game are already the way they are presented in these new UI changes. Kind of in a similar way as to how the changes to the American destroyer rate of fire had already been restored to the pre-0.3.1 build, but the UI hadn't been corrected yet and the UI was still showing 12 rounds per minute for all American destroyers. These changes to the rudder shift times have already happened, they were just not reflected in the stats. I've confirmed this today on the Auba and the Isokaze, which are at 6.5 second and 2.7 second rudder shift time respectively. So basically there's not going to be a Rudder Shiftpocalypse, the Rudder Shiftpocalypse has already happened. Now I have no idea when this change actually came about. The last time I remember them doing anything with rudder shift times was in 0.3.13. So the question is, have these changes been in the game since then and we just didn't realize it? But the fact remains that this doesn't change the game, it just updates the UI to reflect how the game already is. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about in this video is the changes to the high-tier American destroyers. In the changelog it said, US Navy destroyers tier 5 and up would receive an alternative hull upgrade that would then enable them to have the defensive fire anti-aircraft ability instead of the engine boost ability. The changelog, at least to me, was a little bit misleading because I kind of thought what it meant was that there would now be two final hull upgrades sort of side by side and you could choose whichever one you want to go for, or one of them is the side grade, or anyway, the important bit is that I thought one of them would actually have the 5th gun that the high-tier American destroyers have before they upgrade their hull. And then the other one would get rid of that gun, replace it with a couple of AA guns, and then get the defensive fire ability instead of the engine boost, so that it was basically a choice between having good AA capabilities and the defensive fire ability, and having a 5th gun and just getting rid of some of the AA capabilities for having additional firepower. Now I thought that sounded fantastic, and I don't really think that would be overpowered at all, seeing how high-tier American destroyers really aren't that amazing to begin with. That little bit of extra firepower would have maybe brought them into a realm where I would have said, yeah, this is actually kind of cool. But alas, that is not actually what the change was. In actuality, the change only affects the Farragut and the Benson. The other destroyers, the Nicholas, Mahan and Fletcher, only have one hull upgrade that then leads into a torpedo upgrade, and that's it, then you research the next ship in the line. But for the Farragut and the Benson there was a secondary hull upgrade that you had to research in order to progress in the tree. That hull upgrade is now a side grade, so you don't actually have to get it to progress in the line. And yes, this actually cuts down on the research cost of the tree, reducing the total cost of the Farragut's module research by 8,000 and 22,000 for the Benson. Now what this has to do with the defensive fire ability, I don't know, because you can only see consumables if you actually purchase the ship. And as I said in the first decloaking the patch, I am not willing to grind on the test server. Now what I think this could mean is that the tier 5 to 10 destroyers just have the choice now to take the defensive fire ability instead of the engine boost ability, just by default, and the hull has nothing to do with that. That would make sense, but of course I don't know because I didn't play the ships, and as such we'll have to wait for the patch to actually come out to see what this change really does. I just wanted to clear this up because it definitely confused me, and the way I talked about it in the frontline report was definitely incorrect. Alright guys, that does it for this episode of Decloaking the Patch. Remember, if you have any feedback, leave it in the comments. Later today you will get the episode of Donkey Double Feature that I promised you on Saturday. Sadly, I could not finish it yesterday because my back was really bad. However, I'm feeling much better now, and as such it's back to work for me.
Work, what we doing? Okay. Zog, taboo.
But until then, I've been Eldritch Master Donkey, and I'll see you in another video.